All right, final two matches that we're going to go ahead and recap here. Houston Dash versus Racing Louisville FC. Houston, the hosts in this one, chose this as a draw. And I'm very happy to get a pick correct in this one. Although I'm a little disappointed because I thought this was going to be the game that was going to give us the goals, and it was not. But that doesn't mean it wasn't exciting. I really enjoyed watching this
This
game.
is your first correct pick.
Yeah, I went with KC, Chicago, Rain. That was LLL. And yeah, I think this we saved my picks for last. I think is what is the energy in this segment. Look, 0-0 doesn't always mean it's a dull or a snooze fest. I thought this game was pretty end to end at some moments. And end to end can also be a nice way of saying kind of frantic, right? Frantic,
Very
or maybe
frantic.
frustrated at some moments. But it just anytime it felt like we thought we were going to get a goal in this one, there was a save or a shot went wide or otherwise. But 0-0, the two teams splitting the points in this one.
Katie Lund. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. She led the league in saves last year, but that was mostly due in part to bad defense and Racing Louisville giving up a lot of shots that Katie Lund had to save. She had 7 in this match, and they were all very well earned by Houston Dash. And Katie Lund keeping a clean sheet. She has to walk away from this game incredibly proud of herself, incredibly proud of her skill and what she was able to do on the pitch. It was very impressive to watch Katie Lund between the sticks for Racing Louisville in this match. I mean, she was all over the place, stealing goals from Houston Dash, not letting them find the back of the net because it was a battle. I liked how you said it, definitely frantic between these sides. 17 shots for Racing Louisville, 15 shots for Houston, and
Oh
no
boy.
goals to come of any of this. 7 shots on target for Houston, 5 for Racing Louisville. This game had a little bit of everything, and I loved it. It was one of the most entertaining games of the weekend.
Yeah, I look, week one can sometimes, like we said, week one can sometimes maybe lead to some frustrating moments. And I think we saw some of that in this game at certain points, because I think if you're racking up into the double digits of the shot totals for either side of the pitch here, and not a single one of them is getting into the back of the net, there are going to be some moments where you see some frustration settling in. And
And some of them should have found the back of the net.
yeah, but it's a tough league. It's not easy to
Definitely, but
score.
Diana Ordonez making a diving header
No.
attempt, that goal was on a platter for
Yeah,
her. It was,
yeah.
and she heads it right at Katie Lund
Mhm.
in goal. So it ends up being a positive play and a positive save for Lund, and something that is probably gonna haunt Diana Ordonez as she puts her head on a pillow.
Maybe some different looks here too, in week
Mhm.
one. I think on the dash side of things, just we chatted a bit about that. Similarly with Kansas City, the personnel that was available for the dash going into this week one match, and we saw that Shea Groom was going to be unavailable in this game due to an MCL tear, and then we see Maria Sanchez. Available but on the bench for this one. So obviously maybe some knocks out of preseason heading into week one, and maybe you don't want to run the risk of certain things this early in the season. But I think I think Houston fans got a little bit of a taste of what they're hoping to see come from that attacking front line,
Mhm.
especially with Sanchez and Ordonez, and the chemistry that can potentially develop between the two of those players. So it's hard to gauge, like, with week one and a team that's not at 100%, right? But I think on the other side, when you're looking at racing, maybe not the same scenario here. And they've got what perhaps could be an ideal starting 11 on the pitch. We'll just say question
Okay.
mark again because it's week one, But I mean, how great was it to see Uchenna Canoe out there,
Oh,
absolutely delivering. Again, the goals weren't here, but it's just like her movement, her shot selection, ability, skill, etc. I feel like I could go on. It was great to see her get her first run out in an NWSL match.
It was really, really impressive and fun to watch the pieces that Kim Bjorkegren has brought together for this Kansas City side. It really was, because there are so many new faces to this team that have never played in the NWSL before, have played in various leagues, that come from all over the world, right? There was something like 6 continents represented in the starting lineup for Racing Louisville. And the fact that they could have such great chemistry on the pitch, that they could have all these different pieces that were put together to be beneficial and work effectively together with, I mean, it's a long preseason, but the chances that a team gets during preseason to actually gel in an 11v11 competitive match is few and far between. I think 3 to 4 preseason friendlies
Yeah.
did Louisville play, and it wasn't the same lineup. It wasn't all these pieces. Some of these pieces just getting into the team over the last week or two, several weeks, and that goes so much to speak to, I think, Kim Bjorkegren's coaching a little bit, but also the mentality of this team and how they're going to come together this year to put big pieces on the pitch together. And when you look at the lineup for Racing Louisville, there was no Jalen Howe available
Yeah.
for this team. And that was a player that was named captain of this team in just her second season in the league, her sophomore season coming out of college. So now, because of that, you have to build even a little bit more. And they've got new pieces with Abby Urseg and Carson Pickett in the back line, and all these new pieces coming together. It was very fun to watch because we had never seen how that would look. And I liked the way it looked, honestly. I did.
We'll see. Both two teams splitting the points here. We'll see what they build off into next week and how they look in week 2. The only 0-0 scoreline that we have across the weekend, and the one draw that we have over opening weekend. And that means we have to talk about the one blowout that we had to sort of close out the remainder of opening weekend. Portland Thorns, your reigning 2022 champions, going up against Orlando Pride. Thorns the winners in this one, 4-0 the scoreline. Weaver, Smith, Sakita, and Vasconcelos racking up the goals for Portland. And listen, they just look like a team that were just ready to come out here and get right back to what they were doing last year. That's score goals and win.
They did not miss a beat from their championship run in 2022 to this opening match. They had the big advantage of playing at home at Providence Park. They had the crowd behind them. This lineup, also incredibly similar to what we saw at
Yeah.
the end of 2022. Crystal Dunn pushing up higher into the midfield. It brings a smile to my face to see that. I honestly, Morgan Weaver was a player that you and I had talked about on this podcast. I had talked about elsewhere, that I needed to step up this year. I need Morgan Weaver to have a year and just go off, because there's going to be a lot of internationals on this Thorn side that are going to be gone for a big chunk of time. And if Morgan Weaver can create magic for herself, can you double the magic when those big pieces of Smith, Sinclair, Sugita, Dunn are all around her, that's what is going to help this Portland side be successful and Morgan Weaver have an outstanding year. And the fact that Morgan Weaver is the opening goal scorer of this game, of the season, of the year for Portland, I was like giddy. I felt like a proud mom to Morgan just because of how much I want this player to succeed. And then from there, it's just a ripple effect, because that starts in the opening 16 minutes. And then 5 minutes later, we get another one from Sophia Smith. It was just a matter of time. And then they let it rip again right at the start of the second half. And before the 50th minute, Hina Sugita getting the third goal. And at that point, it's head in hands. If you're an Orlando Pride player, fan, it was looking grim and downhill for them.
I mean, you look at the scoreline, sure, and you're like, wow, that's a blowout. But I think if you're watching the 90 minutes of this game, you're just looking at one team in a certain kind of form, and you're looking at another team really just trying to still find their identity on the pitch. I mean, it was talk about the game that's going to be a tough week 1 match to sort of take a look at your film in the following week. It's this one for the Pride. They just never looked like they were in the game. Not even in the opening 5 minutes,
Wow.
because it just didn't take long for Portland to go ahead and get on the scoreboard. We're talking 15 minutes for an opening goal for this team, and then not only did Sugita go ahead and get a goal in this match. I mean, she was just putting on a clinic in terms
Yeah.
of taking advantage of the space being, given to her, and at one point just absolutely cooking, the players who were trying to collapse on her. It just looked too easy at times. It was maybe you look at the roster in front of you. I was a little curious about. What was available, like who was available or what was available for
Right.
Pride going into this game. I know we're high on a player like Madrill, to sort of be one of those young pieces that Orlando can sort of look with and develop over time. But I'm just curious to sort of see, like, we're talking about week one, players who are perhaps maybe carrying knocks into week one, and as coaching staff, you don't want to push anything too fast or too hard. And maybe that's why we didn't see certain typical starters start over the course of this opening weekend. Maybe they came off the bench, for an example, like with someone like Maria Sanchez, or we didn't see somebody
Right.
like Taylor Smith with Gotham FC. Like maybe they're just taking precautions right now, while they just maybe pick something up in training. And when we looked at the starting lineup for this and the back line, I'm like, wow, your rookie center back is not going to start with somebody like a Monofusco, is not going to start with
Yeah.
somebody like a Cecilia on the back line. I'm like, this might turn out not ideal for you.
Yeah.
And that ended up being the case. And it's just, I think, maybe if you have players who are more ready or available and available to go in the following week, the defensive shape looks a little bit different. But in this week one game, it just left a lot to be desired.
It did. I think that's a very good point you make about kind of who was out there for certain teams, and I don't think that Orlando is doing themselves a lot of favors with the inexperienced lineup that they had. Frankly, they had Marta back in the midfield. They had Adriana. They had some pieces that have considerably been there. But when you're looking at someone like a Julie Doyle, a Michaela Clough, a Carrie Bello, a Keelan Cosme, Messiah Bright in the front line, these are all players that just don't have a lot of experience. And to go to Portland and to play in that stadium against the reigning champions, it's harsh. That is a
Yeah,
harsh way to start your season. I am hoping that every single Orlando Pride player can kind of wipe the slate clean in their
yeah,
mind. Honestly, forget about this game. Like, I don't even think it would behoove them to watch that much
yeah,
film on it. I think it would just tear their confidence apart. Forget it, move on. It's week one. And yes, these are crucial points to pick
yeah,
up, but a loss is a loss. You conceded 4 goals. How do you get that back? How do you find the positives in this and move forward next week when you have another match to play and you've got to turn it around? Because if you get down on yourselves in the first week, it is going to be a very long season for Orlando Pride. And I think they can turn it around. I think they'll get some of those
yeah,
pieces in there. I think they'll find some changes. It was a tough one for them to go up against Portland, and Portland said, "Hey, our confidence isn't wavering at all. We are going to stick it to you with 4 goals and a shutout." Oof.
yeah. No, it'll be tough. I'm with you on that. Got to have short memory, right? I think
Yeah.
if you're a pro athlete, and hopefully they just sort of build off the things that they were trying to build off of in the preseason, and maybe not so much within this first game. Because I was surprised to sort of see the lineup that we saw with so many rookies and or first or second year players
Right.
around Marta, literally. So was surprised to not see a Listro in there, or Cecilia, or Megan Montefusco, or an Erica Timrak, like even an Ali
Yeah.
Watt at this point. I was like, oh, these are all players who are gonna be available on the bench apparently. But I mean, that's also, again, you don't know what players are carrying into week one, or if it's too serious to list on an availability report, or if it's just a knock that maybe they pick up in warm up or something like that. So we'll see. I think that's good advice. I think don't worry about this one. Forget about it.
Don't
Move
watch the
forward.
film.
Don't watch
Don't
the film.
listen to what the people say. Just head down, get back to work, Orlando.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
100%. And if you're the Thorns, you're like, this is great.
Yeah, yeah.
We're awesome. We were champions, and guess what? We're still awesome. Yeah, on to the next one, baby. That's the energy. And that's what we're gonna close out with because it's late and you're tired. I'm tired. It's been a long weekend. We watched a lot of soccer. We watched a lot of games. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight on A3.